Kofu, Japan, 1943. The bell had just rang. Classes were immediately cancelled. This elementary school teacher is afraid. She is shaking, fearful of what is to come. Her heart pounds so fast, but she remembers she needs to move quickly, for if they find out the truth, her future is over. Treason, or maybe even death. Outside, she heard it. The truck. They have arrived. The Imperial soldiers had ordered all members of the school staff to line up in the yard. She shakily pulled on her wooden locker, staring back at her two spheres of blue. Then, footsteps. They are closing in. She grabbed it quickly and hid it behind the portrait, a spot she felt was secure. A loud knock on the door. They are here. The two soldiers barge in, tearing through every inch of the room. One shouted, demanding where it is. The lady, frozen, stayed silent. They forcefully dragged her out of the room, but the eyes, they can only stare, watching in silence. How can a simple teacher of a small Japanese elementary school be the subject of a desperate search? What were the soldiers looking for, and what would they do to her? And how will these two eyes etch an uncertain future between two nations? This is the curious case of the eyes that witness war and peace. Now, she might have been caught, but this is not just a simple story of a teacher braving through adversity. It was a conflict of two colliding forces brewing several decades ago. And to understand the fear that was felt in that room, we will go back in time, 16 years ago, to where it all began. In the land of stars and stripes, the United States of America, San Francisco, California, 1924. World War I had just concluded. The Allied powers, including Japan and America, had won. Soldiers returned home, and the world declared peace. But on the streets of California, for this Japanese family of three, the word peace held little to no meaning. Every time they went out in public, they felt it. Angry stares that followed them. They knew, deep inside, judgment had already been cast. The problem. It started way back in 1882. Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, a law meant to halt Chinese immigration. But this law created a massive rift in the economy for cheap labor. Now, enter the Japanese. Hundreds of steamships full of hope poured onto the west coast to fill this gap. But unlike other jobs, this came with an unusual disclaimer. You could say many American-born citizens were not too pleased with their arrival. The Japanese started as farmers and train workers, but through hard work, they began to shift toward other jobs. And for the working-class Americans, they felt threatened. They felt jobs were being stolen, lands were being purchased left and right. They saw the Japanese not just as workers anymore, but as invaders. And in time, their silent stares turned into whispers. Then, these whispers turned into protests. And these protests ultimately exploded into violence. This simmering rage went on, until it finally culminated in one massive, humiliating legislative attack. The Immigration Act of 1924, a law that completely and totally banned all further immigration from Asia. And for the Japanese specifically, it wasn't just a policy. It was a diplomatic slap in the face. The US government officially and implicitly declared them unwanted aliens. Now, 3 years later, as the door slowly shut between the two nations, a voice came forward. A voice seeking to repair the broken bridge that was on the brink of total collapse. And that voice came from this man, Sidney Gulick. Gulick had been a missionary stationed in Japan for 25 years before settling back in the US in 1913. He was a teacher, a preacher, a peacemaker. He knew the culture, he spoke the language, and he felt it was partly his responsibility to repair the void between the two different cultures. He started with peace missions, with political goals in mind. He rallied for better laws and equal treatment of all nations. But his attempts at peace were futile. His voice was passing through deaf ears, controlled by a heart that had already made up its decision. So he came up with a plan. A plan so simple, yet it felt impossible. If he could not convince the adults, then maybe he could turn to the next generation, to the little kids, whose hearts were yet to be occupied with prejudice. But there was just one small problem. How could the children of Japan and America communicate if they could not understand each other? And thus, born from this dilemma, were the messengers of peace, the dolls of friendship. Gulick believed that through these dolls, he could lay out the seeds of peace. Thus, months forward, through various organizations, he successfully campaigned throughout the nation and collected 12,739 friendship dolls, each equipped with their own unique dress, passport, and letter of hope from the children who donated them. Yokohama, Japan, March 1927. Just in time for the annual Hina Matsuri celebration, an important festival, especially for young girls. You see, the Japanese do not see dolls as mere playthings. They see them as living creatures, possessing heart and soul, and they give these dolls the greatest care and respect. A sea of Japanese children welcomed the friendship dolls as soon as they arrived. They toured the country, visited schools, shrines, and even had an audience with the emperor. After their tours, the dolls were distributed to elementary schools all over Japan. Whether it be Mary or John, each doll received a new name and a new set of friends. And for Gulick, the mission was a success. Now, for his Japanese counterpart, they watched how the dolls were welcomed with smiles and saw it fit to return the favor. And so, a committee led by Viscount Eiichi Shibusawa, a businessman, reciprocated the gift with 58 well-crafted dolls, each representing a Japanese prefecture. These 58 dolls were made from small donations from elementary school children all over Japan. They may be few, but each of them was crafted with precision, care, and artistry. Clad in their finest ceremonial kimonos, while carrying letters of peace from Japanese students, the dolls toured from the west coast to the east coast of the US. With the laughter and smiles in sight, Gulick, with his head held high, watched with optimism as the seeds of peace took root in the hearts of the youth. His goal, finally accomplished. Until 14 years later, December 7, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack, an attack so devastating it completely ripped apart the fragile peace holding the two nations. The peace Gulick had envisioned, that was supposed to be sprouting, had now totally collapsed. For 2 years, the war progressed so much so that it seemed there was no end in sight. But as Japan was pushed back, tensions among its citizens grew, as patriotism was tested. The nation promoted that every citizen must work as one and must watch each other for suspicious acts of sympathizing with the enemy. And one of the victims of these patriotic tests were the envoys of peace, the blue-eyed dolls with blonde hair. They were seen as representations of the Americans who were slaughtering their countrymen. And so, in 1943, a military order was released, commanding that all dolls be destroyed. Some dolls were dragged through mud, some were drowned in ponds, others publicly burned. Some were pierced through with stakes and showcased in public. The order declared that whoever possessed them should surrender them, and whoever hid these dolls was believed to be sympathetic to the enemy and was to be treated as a traitor. Hence, in this elementary school, a teacher went against the grain and stood by the doll. For her, the doll was innocent and had no part in the war. It was an object of hope, a hope for peace in the future. She knew the one thing these soldiers wouldn't dare touch, the portrait of the emperor. So she hid the blue-eyed doll behind it, and hoped someday the dolls would see a brighter future. The war continued for another 2 years, until the sun fell from the sky, twice. After the 2 atomic bombs, Japan finally surrendered. The war had ended, and the dolls, they hadn't been seen again. Tokio, Japan, 1973. A teacher read in the newspaper that 150 miles away, in Kofu, a blue-eyed doll had been unearthed and was now being showcased to children. After seeing the doll, she rushed and started to look for the remaining ones. After combing through the nation, out of the original 12,738 blue-eyed dolls, she found 33 that survived, thanks to the brave teachers and principals. Meanwhile, in the US, efforts were also made to search for the Ningyo dolls. Out of the original 53, 45 had been found. During the war, most of them had been taken off the shelves, while others were displayed on their back as a sign of protests to Japan. After restoring both the blue-eyed dolls and Ningo dolls, the two nations, once enemies, agreed to allow them to go on a tour again, but this time, not solely to promote peace, but to be kept as a reminder of a darker time. A time where even innocent representation of peace had to hide. And so, that is it, the mystery of the eyes that witnessed a crossroads of fire, of innocence caught between peace and war, between prejudice and acceptance. A story of small acts of courage, where hope quietly bloomed. This file is closed, for now, but not forgotten. Thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you want to investigate some more curiosities, subscribe, so we can unfold more stories and unravel the mysterious, the bizarre, and the untold.